Welcome to Wimmer's Wilderness. I'm your host, George Wimmer. I have 30 years of volunteer work, community organizing, and 16 years in local government, 12 of those as mayor. Wimmer's Wilderness is an informed look at politics, community, government, environment, and education from a local perspective. Today we're joined by Chiara of BeeVital. Chiara, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your education background, what got you interested in working for BeeVital, and what you do for the company.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me in the first place. My name is Chiara. We are a company called BeeVital. We are based in Austria. And I have studied biomedicine, and I got by pure accident into the company, to be honest. But I absolutely am grateful for it. I always wanted to work for a company that has a bigger impact beyond my work. Of course, as I'm a sales and marketing person, any company is living from selling things, right? Or distributing something. Yet I wanted to do this for a company that has a bigger purpose, so to say. And we are, as our name already says, BeeVital, having on our first agenda that we try to keep bees vital. And it's a company that is producing different products for honeybee health. So there was somehow this purpose that I found in the company, and I'm very happy and grateful to work for something like that.
That is a great kind of education background. So did you think, you said you kind of got there by accident. Did you think, working on the sales end of something would have, 5-10 years ago, do you think that would have been something you have wanted to get into? Or is that just kind of your way to get into working with the company, and how did that kind of flow?
Yeah, I was just like, I do really like, or somehow it comes natural to me that it's easy to communicate with different people for me. But I have studied science, right? So I always understood the principle behind the product very well. And I came to some fairs with my colleagues, and for me it was very easy to describe the chemistry or the impact on the products. So through this, I somehow became a salesperson, because some questions that couldn't be answered by others for me was easy to understand, as I had this scientific background. So and somehow now I'm the bridge between the science and the sales.
And that is an important position in my background. I've worked in finance and in manufacturing, running companies. And one of the great things is, having a design engineer when I was running an electronics company who could break down the science of it into just regular plain language so more people can understand it. And I think, that gift that you have of doing that, the breaking down the science of why BeeVital or really anything like that is beneficial. That's a tremendous skill.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I will try my best. Of course, I'm also just human, and I'm happy to learn new things about bees. I think this is something that, and everywhere in the world, there are so many topics that have been discussed around the world by different people, and everyone can learn from each other, right? So, beekeeping even in Europe, in Denmark, is not the same as in the south of France, simply through different weather conditions and surroundings from the bees comes from the pollen, or the seasons. There are areas in Europe where it's summer and winter, and some are just summer. So my knowledge is, of course, not an expertise in in every situation, yet I try to understand it as good as possible.
Well, yeah, my bees right now are sleeping. They've gone through so far about 10 degrees below Fahrenheit, and they'll kind of ebb and flow as they are sleeping away here for a good 5-month long winter. So Whereas if you're in the southern part of the United States, it doesn't get below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's quite a range there. What got this company, and I read up a little bit about it, but the company was started by the founder, as he was working with honey and all that kind of stuff. So if you can just kind of walk us through that history a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the founder is Mr. Hole. He founded the company in 1990, so exactly 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it began in honey trading. But soon they realized that they needed, through honey trading, that they needed effective varroa treatments. And he started from there to develop varroa treatment products for the bees, excuse me. Because he got through this natural how affected bees were already in Europe by varroa, right? Mm-hmm. So he continued trading honey and did this developing part more as a hobby, I guess. Yeah. And 2003, so 13 years later, he launched in Austria and first treatment that was with an efficacy by 94%, I believe. And through that, the expertise of honeybee health started from BeeVital. And the expansion in Europe and further north of Africa started from there, around 2006. Mm-hmm. And then they somehow started, we wanted to have a registration as a medicine, a honeybee medicine that is literally a pharmaceutical product. Mm-hmm. So this started from there in around 2012, where then also his son, my now boss, the CEO of the company, mm-hmm. Got into this project as well. So it's it's a family-owned business. We are a quite small team, yet with a very big agenda on our list. Mm-hmm. And then the first time ever the company has started the central EU registration of honeybee medicine. So unfortunately, Varroa Med, which is this product I'm talking about, is not available yet in the US, mm-hmm. but in the whole European Union. And that was quite a procedure to having the bureaucracy. Is that the right word in English?
Yes, it is.
For the whole EU. Because pharmaceuticals are, of course, not the easiest thing to do. And it didn't, the change of the generations was basically just a thing that came natural, because the honeybee health was something that didn't stop at varroa, right? Talking to different people, we somehow understood that there were more problems to honeybee health, such as chalk brood, of course, all these infections, and also brood problems, pollen variety problems. So there was a product which is a supplementary feed, mm-hmm. and is available in the US called Bee Strong. I'm not sure if you heard from that.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a thing that we launched 2014 or 2015. Don't point on me with that, but sounds 5 years ago. I'm not in the company for that long yet.
Yes.
Still studied at this time. Mm-hmm. And in this, it's a supplement for strong and healthy brood, making a well-nourished and very productive colony. Yeah. And 2015, 16, something around that, BeeVital expands then in the US and Canada. And from there on, we are trying to expand in different countries from Europe, North Africa, Asia, America. And we are working now on seeds that have also the purpose, of course, for mm-hmm. A good honeybee health, because the bee strong that we are having now is a supplementary feed, so it's an enzyme that is very similar to the royal jelly, to basically boost the colony. So it's a supplement as sick people take vitamin C or something when they're getting sick. But of course, there are, for example, also we take the honey from the bees, right?
Right.
So we are working now on products that we give the bees instead of the honey, because the most beekeepers just give them like some sugar replacement, but sugar is not the same as honey. Otherwise, they would make sugar, right?
Right.
It's energy, yes, but it has not all these super crazy benefits. Why we also like the honey more than the sugar syrup. So, we are trying to develop right now a feed for bees that is not just supplementary, but that you put instead of the sugar in it to give basically the bees back what we took from them.
Well,
so we are constantly on the agenda of providing a natural honeybee health with the best impact on the environment and the bees.
Well, you're talking about the and Be Strong is how I kind of got introduced to BeeVital, that product, and became interested in researching your company. The environment that you're working on, its European standards are generally higher than standards for the United States. Is it something that because you're a European,
that's what you said now?
well, that's what I hear on our end. But the process. But you are working through the process of trying to get that approved in the United States as well. And is it a similar type process that you went through in Europe, or is it just a completely different standard?
Well, I'm not in the registration part. As a colleague of mine, so I can just say it from the perspective that I know. And it took us in Europe 4 years. Oh. So it's not an easy thing, like, because the pharmaceutical area is not as a supplement, right? Like a supplement is like a food. The registration of that is very simple.
Yes.
But as it is a pharmaceutical product, veterinarians, etc., need to basically be integrated in this process. They need to make tests, also, of course, of the legitimacy of it, because this Varroa treatment is not as any others. Like, the regulations in Europe, as you said, are quite high when you are actually allowed to treat against Varroa, because you don't want any residues in your honey, right?
Yes.
So when you, like in Germany or Austria, for example, you are not allowed to treat usually in the spring, because once you harvest the honey and you might have residues. So the beekeepers are just limited for from August, September on to be able to treat, which leaves them with quite a big gap for treatment, because there's also the winter coming, right? So we have now one of the first products, or we are the only product that has this whole season effect. So this Varroa treatment is also effective for the spring without residues in the honey. So when you just think about this, when it comes to registration, you need to prove that, and that takes a while, because of course bees are seasonal, right? It's not something that you can just try out every month. You need to wait almost a year to let the bees do their thing.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah, I think getting people to understand what the time and the cycle for bees is. And I'm really curious and interested, and hopefully you're able to get the product over here for, essentially a honey replacement, because one of the things when you're trying to time, and I know from my own personal experience with it, of when, you take the last batch of honey from the bees and then giving them enough time to build up their stores again for winter. It's, where I'm at in the state of Minnesota, and my bees are in the state of Wisconsin at our lake cabin. There we have winter could start hitting hard like it did here and in the end of October, where you can get, freezing temperatures, below zero temperatures, your first snowfalls, or the year before it was late as the beginning of December. So you have a month and a half kind of swing either way, and having a good supplemental food for bees. Cause what a lot of beekeepers do here is, supplement with sugar water, but the bees still have to process that to turn it into honey. When you have something that's closer to honey, they can go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's also just sugar. Like, I mean, it's the same thing with us humans. Like, we could survive on just broccoli, right? Like, broccoli is something healthy. Okay, cool. But does it actually really equal all the nutrition we need? No, it doesn't. Like, just because one thing works for us, like, we could survive on years probably just eating broccoli. Like, the part of our digestion wouldn't be happy about it, but also, like, long term, like the effects are not really good, right? Like, but the thing is, the life of a bee is just not as long as from a human, so it kind of works every year. But you kind of, like, we want to push the efficacy and, like, the production of the colony to the maximum in a natural way, just to provide them basically all the nourishment they need to work optimum. And that's the same thing with the nutrition of humans as bees. The Bee Strong we have now already on the market is, as I said, an enzyme that we get of chicken eggs, actually. That has a very similar protein or amino acid profile to royal jelly. So when you imagine that not just the queen is getting all these super beneficial things from the royal jelly, but the whole colony, like, the brood is getting very strong and it's almost like boosted. So there are very different reasons why the beekeepers actually use it. Like, some people use it is to basically kickstart after winter, when they had a winter.
Yes.
So the first brood is getting the best quality of food, which are the developed worker bees, right? So they will make more honey there because they get stronger and almost better. Then there are the second reason why they use it is for winter. So they put it into the food for winter, that the bees are basically getting a boosted immune system and are stronger for overwintering. Or there are also beekeepers that are just, like, for example, in California, that have a lot of pollination going on, that they put it into the food for the bees when the bees have a very stressful time. Yet, to say, for example, when there is almond season or blueberry season, where they're interacting with a lot of different bees, so it's very easy for them to get affected by any bee diseases. So they basically put it to prevent getting sick or weak within the colony.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you about, because as industrialized farming, in the United States, we love to, just like everywhere else, we love to eat, nice summer crops during the middle of winter. And so Napa Valley, or, the valleys out in California are, producing a lot of that. So you get that really high intensity industrial type farming operations. Have you seen, and I know you've been with the company a shorter period of time, but
2 years now.
Yeah, where this is going, because it seems like that intensity of farming and crop growing is going to get more and more, and we're relying on bees to become kind of the foot soldiers in pollinating all these crops. And again, it's led to a lot of issues, whereas somebody like me who is going to have maybe 5 to 10 hives, obviously a tiny scale in comparison.
Yeah.
But there are, so many people who are doing that, and my bees at my small scale get affected over time because it goes through all these bee populations. And then, when you have hundreds of thousands of hives, moving from region to region to region like we do here in the States.
Yeah, there are just very different styles of beekeepers. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So where does your product end up? Do you have, obviously you want to supply everybody, but do you see a lot of your product going to the larger operations, or how do you gear that from a sales perspective? I'll ask you an actual sales question this time of how
it's
how
actually,
do you do
it's like, that is a challenge we face every day, because we have a lot of different personas, so to say, that we are reaching. Like, we don't have, like, our target is to be the best product for honeybee health, but our target is the bees.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are the beekeepers that are treating the bees are very different. So of course, hobby beekeeper, we have smaller bottle sizes,
Mm-hmm.
right, where like hobby beekeeper can use our products, but of
Right.
course we also have commercials. And within the commercials, there are also different ones, because there are commercial beekeepers that do honey,
Mm-hmm.
and commercials that do pollination. Pollination in the US is super different to pollination in the Netherlands, right? Like, the styles in each country is different.
Could you
Like,
talk about that a little bit more? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you talk about, kind of from region to region, or a couple examples of country to country, how honeybee keeping does differ? Because I think that would be fascinating for our audience.
well, I don't want to offend anyone, okay? But yeah, it's just like like a beekeeper that is, for example, like, let's call him an organic hobby beekeeper.
Right.
He has, like, it's a hobby for him. So he's actually happy to spend more money on the treatment, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a hobby. So he has the money to invest it, because his money is coming from his main job. Right?
Yes.
So he is like super into it. He's reading a lot of books, and it's like, oh my God, that's super nice that there's no residues, and it's super nice that I don't need antibiotics, and it's super nice that it's an increased honey yield or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
that my queen is so happy. Like, I see her, she's like, whatever, like,
Yep,
he's
yes.
petting his bees.
Yes.
So, like, of course, talking to him is like arguments like that our products are organic, or that our products, because they have no residues,
Mm-hmm.
is much more relevant for him, right?
Right.
For an commercial pollination person in the US, he doesn't care about the residues or antibiotics, because he's putting everything in his bees as long as it works. Like,
Right.
for
Yep.
him, the efficacy is much, 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 much more important. So, like, when I come to him and says, like, yeah, well, I have a beekeeper who has literally names for his queens,
Mm-hmm.
he's laughing about me, because he's like, I don't care, I'm talking about money. Like, for
Yep.
me, this is like, as any other business as well, right? Like, so he is like trying, of course, to buy big quantities to get a discount, and he's just talking about numbers. Like, for this is serious business. It's not a hobby for him anymore. So, yeah, like,
Right, and
actually,
it's different perspective, because
it's
he's
just-
go
yeah,
ahead.
it's different perspectives, and also where you meet the people is different. Like, some people are reaching out on Instagram or Facebook to us. The commercial big persons you usually meet at fairs, like honeybee fairs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like, to actually sell to people, you need to talk to people, right? It's
Yes.
everywhere the same. Just the arguments through which you catch them are
Mhm.
different.
Yes, absolutely. And, we see that a lot in the States, like I said, with these large operations that, when they're worried about pollinating, they split their hives so many times, which, that in and of itself weakens the hive to a significant standpoint. And so I was just kind of curious of, differing types of operations. Are there differing regulations? There's very little that actually regulates bees in the United States. Are there regulations in Europe, not just for
Yes, a lot.
not just for, residue and things like that in the honey, but of how they're handled and what you can and cannot use on bees.
And they're different in every country, so I actually can't tell you because I need to read it myself every time as well, depending on to which person I'm talking to.
So there's not an EU standard; it's an individual country standard.
It's both. Yes, they're that's what I'm saying. We are the first product that has pushed through the whole EU.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but usually they are different in each country. Yes, they are, and especially also because, as I said, we needed to test to get through 3 climate zones within Europe. I know Europe is tiny, but we have 3 climate zones. Mm-hmm. And beekeepers in Denmark experience long rain times or episodes, periods of heat are not as common as in Spain. In Spain, the problem is, for example, they have a lack of pollen because there is no rain for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
The Danish people have a lack of pollen because there is rain for 6 months. So they're both is equal, far from optimal for bees, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they both benefit from supplementary feed, but again, for different reasons. And so is also the Varroa treatment, because they can't harvest at the same time. Spanish people can harvest basically all year round because there is never ever a time where there is no honey, or at least not maybe little more there's less honey for some times, but they could harvest all the time, right? So for them, the no residue part is much more important than for someone that has anyway just a 4-month season each year.
So how are you reaching into these markets? And again, I became aware of BeeVital through an Instagram post for Bee Strong. Somebody had been using it, and probably one of your marketing or ambassadors were using it.
Yeah.
So have you found that approach? As I'm assuming, those types of things are obviously for more of the hobbyist type bee person. But is that how you're trying to penetrate the U.S. market more, or are you waiting to get certification for the med side of it to really do a bigger push out there? Because the product is fantastic, but just getting that message out to people and then getting people to try something new.
Yeah, trying something new is actually that's why it's very easy to communicate on Instagram, because that is the new generation of beekeepers. Mm-hmm. So they are actually more likely to try something new than the old grandpa that is 82 and is still using the treatments that he learned from his grandpa, right?
Yes, yep.
Beekeeping is a very old business, so therefore, I think beekeepers, that's the funny thing, doesn't matter which generation, which country they're coming from or the origin. When everyone thinking of a beekeeper is this older guy with a pipe sitting there and is talking to his bees in a garden. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the thing, that's the same in Germany when you go to fairs. It's 80% of your target group are these people, right?
Uh-huh.
So to change their mind and talking to them, trying to say hey, we have a new product, not as easy as the younger generation, which we're trying to reach out on Instagram too, right? Mm-hmm. But we also of course, may visit actually associations or beekeeping schools where we are basically it's not a selling show. It's more about hey, that's what we come up with. We're coming up with this because, and just give them the knowledge we have gained over the years developing this product. they can't actually say no to it. Like, yes, they can say no, I don't want to try it, but they can't say that it doesn't work because we do have the results that it does.
How you're the market
coming, and you asked me a lot of questions, and also coming to the US part is how shall I say, Corona doesn't make it easier to work with bureaucracy, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, we had a lot of development issues this 2020 that we didn't expect or didn't see coming at all, because we were like, yeah, well, Corona, no one. Am I even allowed to say the C word on this podcast?
You can say whatever you wish.
Everyone is traumatized by this. But yeah, the US, so our production, we thought that we wouldn't be affected by Corona because bees can't get Corona, right? So we're like, yeah, whatever. Lucky us, we are not going to be affected. Haha, jokes on us. As we are a pharmaceutical company,
yes,
our producer from certain acids was affected because he got basically called out by the government to produce Corona tests.
Yes.
So he had no quantities anymore in his production to produce our products.
Yeah, all his capacity was taken.
So we had a shortage for basically 9 months from 2020. So that was like catastrophic, but we didn't see it coming. Like, yet we also couldn't do something against it because, of course, human health is above the bee health.
Well, in the beginning of last year, because a lot of hobbyists will start, in spring, obviously, with their first hive, and a lot of different quarantine areas and a lot of things like that in the United States. So you might be getting your bees from another state or halfway across your state, but since you weren't able to have any kind of contact, you weren't able to pick those up. And so there's a lot of disruption even in hobbyist beekeepers getting started and going. And a number of the things that I'd read show that, it was something that people were like, okay, well, I can't go do this, I can't go do that. So now I'm going to try and, start my first bee colony, because at least that's something I can do in my own backyard. But even getting the supply of bees was difficult at times. And then again, after about 3 to 6 months, that started to loosen up. But you don't start a bee colony in September. And so that had an effect on those too.
That was somehow also the problem for us, like pushing forward with the registration process in the US and Canada, or like any Northern American region, because we didn't have products even to give to the pharmaceutical registration, we were like, yeah, cool, we have the papers, but the product is like, it's coming, and we couldn't even answer when, 'cause now we are already in lockdown 3. I kind of lost track in which lockdown we are already, like in 4 or 3, something around that.
Yep.
So yeah, like the situations don't change. I feel like everyone has hope for 2021, but I'm like, yeah, guys, but somehow it's still there, right? Like it's not gone. So we will see. We are pushing. Of course, we know that there's a a good market for us, but also, a lot of people are asking for it. We last year, or like 2 years ago now already, 2019, we have been on the Apimondia in Montreal, which is the largest bee fair. And of course, there were a lot of Canadians and Americans which all asked for the product. But we are trying. That's all I can say. How long it will take, we don't know. Like, also, of course, in the US, for them, it's not a priority to import now more products because the whole world is basically on hold with the economy, with some areas at least.
Right, but and as a small beekeeper myself, I'm very anxious to get my hands on that particular product because I think it's going to be very beneficial.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Thank you.
What do you think led to the aspect of trying to make BeeVital as environmentally friendly as possible? Is it an outgrowth from, working with bees? Obviously it's a food product as well, so that, keeping that safe that way, is it something that's kind of instilled by the owner? What is that kind of environment or culture within BeeVital? What drives that? Because it seems like there's obviously a strong scientific impulse in the company, which is fantastic. But on that environmental side, which seems to be a strong driving force as well, where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, I feel like if somehow it was never a question we asked ourselves. I think it was just a priority part of our agenda to create and develop the best solutions for beekeepers in order to make beekeeping as stress-free and safe and enjoyable as possible. No matter where you are or which type of beekeeper you are, if you're a hobby beekeeper, a beginner, a commercial, an organic, we always wanted to create somehow a community that is identifying with our name as BeeVital and support the beekeeping journey of anyone to make it safe for the beekeeper, but the bees and the environment. And so there was no question on how or why. It's more about okay, what do we need to make this happen? So for example, this Varroa treatment, Varromed, is already it's a bottle that comes ready and fast to use. So there's no mixing with any acids that may hurt the beekeeper or the bees, right? Because I don't know how it is in the US at this moment, but the most people here are treating with oxalic or formic acid.
Yep. That's
and I mean, there is some mixing going on. And when there is a square meter of grass besides the beehive getting brown, come on, guys, you can't expect that this is something good for the bees. It's so many things by the acids are getting destroyed if you need to wear a mask. And all these things for us were things that needed to be better to make it beekeeping an enjoyable process.
Yeah, and I think you just came up with, when you're able to launch this in the United States, your perfect Instagram post of that traditional of, I love that image of you've got that square meter around where everything is dead on the ground, and then your product, which is obviously easy and light and doesn't have that. You don't have to mask up, you don't have to glove up, you don't have to do all those types of things. It is a night and day difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's a liquid suspension that is containing also propolis, for example, which makes the queen more likely happy about getting treated. And it's not as irritating for the bees themselves, allowing for an extended duration of effect. And the application is very simple. The doses is consistent, and there's a scale on the side of the bottle, so the beekeepers can actually read while they apply it directly on the hive, which makes the treatment just economic, also optimized, because there is no acid getting spreaded around somewhere, but just there where it's needed on the bees. It's just, I think it came also through, of course, the founder being a beekeeper himself, experiencing it as well. I think you can always talk about something the best when you have your own experience with it. How should a person make a good car, never driven one on the Autobahn in Germany, knowing how actually 300 PS feels like? Yeah, cool. Okay, dude, but you need to somehow know what you're talking about, right?
Yes. What would somebody do if they wanted to find your product, wanted to, tell you or communicate with you about your product, whether it's, I'm using it and, this is my feedback. Obviously there's, on your website, BeeVital, .com. There's a way to contact your company. But what kind of feedback would you like to have from people about your product so you can kind of, keep doing that continual improvement with it as you go along?
I think to make it very enjoyable and somehow also that our products help them reaching their goals. Was a very, very kind email I got. And as I told you about our difficulties in 2020 with getting actually our products that we kind of ordered. Mm-hmm. Yep. Of course, my heart also broke because reaching out to my customers and my clients and the association and the beekeeping schools and all these people saying that I can't give them what they need. For me, it was not just only, of course, about numbers, but also about thinking about all these bees that I can't help. Like, as I said in the very beginning, I always wanted a job with a higher purpose behind the things I sold or created. And of course, there were a lot of people that didn't understand. There were also a lot of people that, happily supported us and be like, hey, guys, it's not only you. We all struggle. We can do this. Mm-hmm. And there was one woman that was writing me such a heartwarming email saying basically that she was very happy to have found us and that she always was a part-time beekeeper and her biggest dream was becoming a full commercial one. But she never had basically the luck to become a commercial one because with the other Varroa treatments and the other things she used in her beehive, she didn't manage to grow so big that she could live from her honey or from her beekeeping.
Right.
And since she found us, she feels like she's coming this dream a step closer, and to basically that she believes in us and that she hopes that we push through this crisis. So she will become a beekeeper, a commercial one, in 2 years. And things like that are very, very motivating and very kind. And just nice to hear that that there are people behind these numbers,
Yeah. And that you're making a strong positive difference in their life.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you, if a 12-year-old little, boy or girl came up to you and said, how do I get where you are today? What do I need to study in school? What kind of experience should I have? If I wanted to come work at BeeVital or in any type of a company like that is, science and environmentally driven, what would you tell that person, that kid?
Oof, that's a hard one. I didn't see that coming. Well, to be honest, I think I really have the belief that everything comes in your life for a reason somehow. Mm-hmm. And when I started biomedicine, I never thought that I even would end up in a veterinarian field, right? I always thought that I'm going to work with humans and help humans. And I think it's just when you want to do something good or give to people, you can find it in any job that you are happy with. Because I listened to another podcast this morning and it was about that you need to put also in the airplane the oxygen mask on you first and then you can help others. And I think it's a thing that you really need to remember also in the times of Corona right now, where everyone needs to take care of themselves in order to help others. And that is the same thing with the university or finding a job. I'm happy now at BeeVital, where you need to find a field that you're happy in. And, you can also become a nurse or, I don't know, another healthcare professional if you want to have a positive impact. But I think some people also get a positive impact by a new hairstyle. So you could become also a hairdresser. I guess it's something where you need to have the feeling to be fulfilled somehow. And the impact follows along. That sounds very cliche, but I think it's true.
But I think, yeah, and I agree. And I do like that where, yeah, you do have to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because if you're not, then somebody else is going to have to. So the first thing that you can do to service other people is make sure that you're in a good place yourself. Then from there, you can go and help others versus them having to help you because, you're not in a good place yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for example, now I also, like, as I said, I struggled a lot being in like sales and like talking to these old desperate people, but I tried my best to, support them in their beekeeping journey either way. Like, even if I couldn't sell them something, which of course, like, I was worried about my job or the company, because from something we need to live.
Yes.
I was still providing them with like tips, or like saying like, yeah, like maybe you can call this reseller or wholesaler and you find there another bottle, or like next year we have gonna make like maybe online courses on how to use the products, or like this book is very good, like in this book you can read about malnutrition in bees, or like like trying to the best to have somewhat an impact. So yeah, it's not easy. 2020 was tough, but I hope everyone at least learned something.
Well,
so yeah,
I try to take the attitude that if we can make it through 2020, we probably should be able to make it through any other year as well, because that was probably one of the toughest and most stressful on a lot of areas, especially for us in the United States. And I'm not going to go into that, but we're trying to get through that period of time as well, and really trying to be optimistic, going forward. And that's why I think whether you're a hobbyist in beekeeping or in something else, it's great to have something like that to work on, to concentrate on, and to feel good about doing. And that's, again, one of the things I love about BeeVital is the whole aspect of it is a scientific, environmentally driven company that is really trying to help. And you've said it several times, in our conversation about we're trying to help people and companies and that type of thing, but we're trying to help the bees. And to me, that was, I love that mindset where you're there to help the bees and to help them thrive and do better. And I can't think of a better way of looking at your company, is that you're really there to try to help and improve our bees.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I mean, yeah, I'm also grateful for the possibility to work in this company. It's not mine, yet I do get also very emotional when it comes to bees now. It's like, it's also like, I don't know, I've never thought about that when I started to work in the company, but you somehow get addicted to these little queens, and you're like, yeah, it's a very passionate hobby, even if you're just a salesperson for a company. Yeah.
Well, this is a message to your ownership, and coming from a guy who was mayor of a city for 12 years and involved in government, and then somebody who ran, multinational company as well, myself, that you're the exact type of person you want to have in your company, because not only is there the passion and the drive, but really the whole expression and the way that you communicate this product, it makes me feel like you are an owner of the company, because you do feel so passionate about what it is that you're doing. So hopefully they'll listen to that comment. If nothing else, this has been fantastic.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to hear this. I really hope that there are more people very kind out there. Like, thank you. I really appreciate it. So yeah.
Anything else that we should know before we let you go back to your?
Well, I guess, I don't know if you link us in the show notes or somewhere. Like,
yep, we'll absolutely do that. For
everyone, they can be happy to reach out on us on Instagram or Facebook. It's allbeevital.com, or just on our website. There is also a website .us for the US market, but as the export in the moment is very, very rare, there are just very big, like 5-liter supplement feeds leftovers there. So for the hobby ones, it's quite expensive, or like they just don't need it that much. So sorry for that. But yeah, like airplanes and ships are not as frequent as usually at the moment flying from Europe to US. So the export is just very, very hard, right? Like everything slows down, and they are also very expensive to just store things right now in the US for us. So be patient with us. We're working on helping the bees all over the world, not just in Europe. And for any other information, you can subscribe also to our newsletter on our website, so you will get informed about any information that are coming up in 2021. And no worries, we don't spam. We're sending every 2 months a newsletter.
And there's some good videos on the website BeeVital.com of how to apply some of the product as well. And then for those who are looking for the product,
on Instagram and Facebook too.
Yes. Yeah. And for those looking for BeeVital products, it also helps that wherever you get your bee supplies, keep asking them to carry BeeVital products. I don't want to get into your sales department, but it's something to really be stating that, a lot of places may not carry something unless it's asked for, enough times, because then they see that there is interest in that product.
Yeah, we do have an ambassador in the US as well. So she has an Instagram called Indigo Aircrease Apiary. She is also very, very passionate about gardening and honeybees. Her name is Rhoda Shope. And she's also happy to help Americans, I guess, talking about their environment and conditions in the US. As I said, it's very hard to keep track on where people are from and how the conditions and weather situations are there, because this world is big, and we are just a company in Austria.
Well, you're a fantastic company in Austria, and what I will do is I will get all the link information and everything from you, and I'll put that out on this podcast, as well as on our other social media to link to, and then to your U.S. ambassador as well. And I want to thank you so much for spending your time with us and talking to us about BeeVital and really, enlightening us about some good things to come. And we'll keep saying, hurry up and get it here as fast as you can.
We're doing our best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the best. And also to every listener, stay healthy, guys.
Thank you for joining us today. Help us spread the word by telling your friends, family, and heck, even your frenemies that they can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Luminary, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you're going to find Wimmer's Wilderness. To learn more about us, go to wimmerswilderness.org. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wimmer's Wilderness.